we'll have a great crowd Saturday, so it should be exciting. But all road games are hard. You know, the more you play them, I think the more it evens out. But I've heard this one many times, that college basketball is the most home court advantage of any sport, 75% win percentage.
What are your most memorable Marquette games?
Boy, I had a lot of them. You know, Coach Huggins' assistant, Coach Patino's assistant, then many years by myself up there. I know one time we beat them on senior day. I think when they had Jimmy Butler, and that was a huge win. But yeah, what I would tell you is their crowd has always been consistent. You know, being a basketball-only school, they've always had good coaching. Shoot, when I first started going there, was with Hugs. Mike Dean was the coach, and it was, you know, then to Tom Crean and Kevin O'Neal, and then to Tom Crean and Buzz had a great run. Obviously, now they got Shaka, but never played there with Woj. So you know, I expect that we'll get their best effort.
Coach, with the great success of last year and the great expectations of this year, what are you telling your players about the noise that's out there about what they are going to do without having even gotten there yet?
Yeah, I think we've kind of moved on from that after we got whacked. We got whacked pretty good. So, you know, humble pie will get you back to reality, which for me is a good thing. It's kind of why you try to make this schedule tough. I'm just a believer in you got to try to get better every day. You can't even worry about, like, we play Saturday. I'm worried about today's practice. And I think you got to try to teach young people that, which is really hard, because the noise is everywhere. You know, with the 24-hour media cycle, and everybody's got a handheld device of some kind. Even my dad at 80 years old has a handheld device giving him information. So. Trying to get my guys just worry about, let's get better every day. You know, big picture, obviously, you know, until we have Cody back to full speed, it's an opportunity for others to grow and for us to get better. Look, we're 10 points or more better with him. That's just a fact. So I look at those opportunity, you know, for us to have to fight through that. Obviously, we have eyes on big prizes that are later in the season. So, not that we wanted to go through this, and especially losing Mac and Will for the season, because it's affected our practice. You know, we're at a point where, you know, when Jaime went down, he missed some days. He's back now, full speed. I know you guys were maybe going to ask that, but, you know, he didn't practice till Wednesday. So, you know, you're down Mac, Cody, Jaime, Will, that's 4 scholarship guys. So it's tough. But, you know, it's just things you go through. You know, you guys cover a lot of sports. You know, injuries are part of it. But opportunity for us to get better, you know. But, again, Jim, I think expectations are great, but they're for other people. And you got to focus on getting better every day. And theoretically, when you have a veteran team, they know that. They should be able to block out noise and focus on the work, and just keep trying to get better and take them one at a time. We're going to have our hands full, as Mark alluded to, Saturday. You know, tough road game, big environment. Obviously, I'm sure it's their last big – I would guess it's their last big non-conference games. I know the Big East has gone to 20 league games as well.
Cody, where's Cody?
He's close.
Has he started practicing?
Light.
Okay.
When I say that, I mean, you know, like 1 play on, 2 plays off. Well, I'd have a better idea after Friday's practice. I need to see, you know, conditioning wise, he's not there. You know, it's more his knees back healthy. I think it's you know, conditioning and getting everything, you know, getting his confidence in his body back.
Would there be a chance you could play him limited minutes, or would you wait to make sure?
I still wouldn't know till Friday. I'd have to see I don't want to put him out there. I would never put him out there unless he was totally confident of being out there. So he could see limited minutes Saturday. He could see limited minutes against Alabama State. It's just, we'll go, you know, yesterday he saw limited minutes. So it's just a matter of his conditioning.
Have you gone up against Shaka Smart before?
We were close a few times. I went down with a arterial dissection the night before the game. When we were scheduled to play each other at VCU, Cincinnati. So I was on some sort of horse tranquilizer when they played that game. Don't recall much of that one. And then he left for the return game to VCU. I coached against Will Wade. He went to Texas. And then Shaka, then obviously last year I thought we beat BYU. I think, we're going to play Texas. And I was doing a media Zoom with you guys. I walked out and somebody said they lost. So this will be our first time. Actually, we're both on the sidelines coaching against each other.
And not on any kind of
right.
What does he bring? What are his teams like? How hard is it to coach against his defense? He's got the reputation.
Yeah, I think a lot of it. What happens in our business is, it's interesting, 'cause he did what he had to do to win at VCU, which was very different from what he had to do to win at Texas, and he did win at Texas. Good coaches that last, like, Coach Smart, you adapt to your personnel, and I think he's trying to figure out, it's his first year. You get a job, you got to try to get, the good thing about nowadays, you get a job, you can get a bunch of transfers and have a team. Versus when I took a job at Cincinnati, guys that I love dearly, I was running around in May signing guys that I was recruiting at Murray State. It was not good to play in the Big East. Now you can get a bunch of transfers, but it's still not, it's still not probably indicative of what he wants their program to look like long term. But he's adjusted. I think he's back to trying to pick up the pace on defense. They do press, not near the way they pressed at VCU.
Coach,
but again, it's personnel, Trace. It's personnel.
We always hear about relationships between coaches, and in particular college basketball. How much does it help and or hurt when you're going up against someone that you know very, very well?
Yeah, I would say that, the only time I felt I had an advantage would be coaching against Rick Pitino and Bob Huggins, because I knew what they were thinking every day because I spent every day with them. But then I looked in the mirror and realized that they're both going to be either are or going to be in the Hall of Fame, so I questioned my advantage of what I knew. I deeply questioned it. So, against guys, I haven't ever gone coach against Shaka, so I have great respect for what he's done in his career and what he's going to do at Marquette. It's a great basketball environment. It really is. Haven't been there. Everybody's been successful to some extent there. Obviously, Tom Crean made the Final Four. Buzz was wildly successful, and I think Shaka will be. But again, like I said, he's still trying to. It's his first year, and you're putting these guys like him. He's not the only one out there. They've been able to put quality teams together on the run, which is not an easy thing to do. They have already beaten West Virginia, who's going to be ranked next week, I think. So, but he's a great coach. Make no mistake about it. I think, sometimes expectations get a little out of whack. They probably did for him at Texas because of what he did at VCU. But as long as he's doing this, he's going to win.
I know it's a good problem in a lot of ways, but you have so many players in 40 minutes to get them all playing time. How often do you kind of, even after a win, go back and say, gee, I wish I'd played so-and-so more? And if so, who is usually that guy that you
For us, Jake and David. Jake and David. We're obviously backlogged at the two-guard position. And, for us, Johnny's doing a better job rebounding. But for us it's hard to play Jake, David, and Johnny, those three guys, two of them at the same time. Because we got to remember we're small overall because we play a four-guard offense. So it's not like we're playing two big guys and we could play them two at the 2 and a 3. We rely on Jules' rebounding a lot. And then, as Peyton's development is having him in there, he has size. So it's hard to get two of those guys, those two guards, in at the same time. So those would be the two guys.
You having I think it's 10 or 11 day between games. How have you handled that?
Great. I've slept well. I've been able to digest food. I think rest is important. It's a long year, so not that we haven't practiced, but you can take some days where you do less contact and you can pick things we need to do a better job of as coaches and just focus on offensive execution. You can focus on a late game situation. It gives you a little more time instead of just game prep. So some areas where for us it was get healthy. Number one, give us a chance to get healthy, and then try to get better. We had a day where we just really focused on offensive execution. But once we got back to Wednesday, we were back to normal. But once the game went down, so we knew Saturday, Sunday, those were 2 freebies for us to try to just focus on UCLA and not worry about our opponent. And we were off Monday. So maybe we had 2 or 3 days where we didn't really have to worry about our next opponent. You can just focus on getting better, which I think a lot of teams enjoy, coaches enjoy during the holiday break. But now you have to take the 3 days off mandatory over the Christmas break, which I'm all for, because the kid, that way the guys get to have Christmas, and you can't force games on people on December 26th. When I used to be part of Louisville, Kentucky on December 26th, and we had 2-a-days on the 24th and 5th. I remember those days. So it's good. That's a good thing. But having some time to go back and just worry about your own team is an advantage. That and get healthy. Because Jaime would not have played at Washington. He would have tried. His dad said you can drop him on his head, play him, but I told him you've been hanging out with my dad too much.
You talk about coaches adapting to the personnel. How have you adapted to the personnel you have since you've been here and this team? Yeah, again,
it goes back, like you get a reputation. Mick Cronin's a defensive guy, or this guy's an offense. It's amazing, I'm waiting a bit for people to pick up on it, the way, our offensive efficiency. I'm waiting because last offseason, everybody asked me to speak at a clinic, kept asking me to talk on defense. So I'll know I've transcended when I start getting asked to do offense at clinics. I'm not there yet, though. You have to adapt to your personnel. And I always have tried to do that, whether we throw it inside, because I'll say this, offensively, you got to get your best players the ball. So anybody that's going to coach 5th grade basketball out there, I get this a lot. Get your best players the ball. Okay, so I don't care who he or she is. Get them the ball, and that's how you got to kind of. For us, we can shoot, so we try to make sure we spread the floor out. What's been missing is Cody inside for us, and Miles gave us some inside presence, and he's worked really hard on his offense. I think that's important for us, and then. I would say this, Trace, having an eye on March. I think when you take this job, you're not just trying to make the tournament. Like, you got to assess, we're going to have to grind to make it, or, you're here, you're trying to advance in it and win it. You have to evolve offensively. You can't be a one-dimensional, two-dimensional team. So a lot of this, there's stuff that we do is to try to evolve, so when we get to March, we have multiple ways to score. That what I've learned the hard way is when you get to March and you don't have multiple ways to score, it's hard to advance. So if you look at last year, we had multiple. I know Johnny had a great tournament, but it wasn't that was a fallacy of our advancement. We had multiple guys that whether it was Tiger, Jules, David at times, Cody inside. Obviously, Jaime became much more of a scorer. That evolution for us is important. I think that's just my experience. That we've got to, and we got guys can do it. But again, as far as the way you coach, you may say, well, what's he got Jalen Clark bringing the ball up the floor for? But again, I think that's going to make us better in the long run.
Is that maybe the silver lining on Cody Riley being out and a little more Jaime Jaquez inside, like he's developing that extra skill set?
All of it. That always helps. That's always a silver lining when you have to play without somebody that you rely on. It forces you to find other ways to be effective, and then when you bring that guy back, you add. You don't go back and change. You add. So hopefully that's the case for us. But I'd like to have the big fella back. I miss him dearly.
There was a metric that came out this week. I know you're obviously familiar with it. The net, it was a little bit eyebrow raising because it had UCLA at number 33. And I think I know where you might say, because you talked about Colgate last year. But do you ever look at that? Because the NCAA selection committee will, at some point, look at that.
There was another one that was way more crazy. Somebody was like 100. I don't. Mike was telling me somebody was 100. I can't. You ask Mike when you guys come out. Somebody was 100 and something in the net, and they're like 11 in the kenpom. So when you figure out that thing, you let me know. I know this, and it's nothing against Professor Lenardi. It's December 8th, 9th, something. I mean, especially when you're in a high major league, it doesn't shake until the end. I just watch games. That tells me who's really good.
But you seem to like kenpom. You think kenpom's a pretty good.
I think for a coach, it tells you your points per possession, offensively and defensively, where you stand, your points per possession. And even kenpom, because it factors in last year. I don't like that. So you have to filter it out where how many points you're giving up per possession. Because when you look at field goal percentage, like the NBA has like effective field goal percentage. You look at some teams and they give up. It's hard to score on them on their field goal, but they foul all the time. So their effective field goal is not as good. So points per possession that you're scoring, or how you're defending, for me, matters, because it doesn't, like points per game. Well, if you're playing a faster game, the other team's got more possessions, so it's points per possession. So yeah, for me, that can help. That kind of shows you where your team is at.
What's your target on points per possession?
About 8.5, but I don't know. I've had some Cincinnati teams, 0.85. I mean,
0.85.
Yeah. I had some Cincinnati teams. I think my best we got up to second one year defensively.
Because, I mean, like, I remember the great game with Zag last year. I mean, you were both like 1.2.
Yeah. Defensively. Or you're talking about offensively.
Yeah. What is it offensively?
Oh, 1.2. Like, if you can get 1.27-ish, you're top 10 in the country.
Coach, how important is it for you to have, or any coach to have, a great memory? Because you're sitting here and we're talking, and you're just spewing off all of these things from 8, 10, 12 years ago. And I'm not trying to confuse anything, but do elephants come to you when they forget stuff?
It's a curse as well. As you know, it's a curse when you can't let coaches. We have a big problem. Okay, we remember every loss, tough loss, every one. The wins tend to fade away because you just you stick on the losses. But I think anybody that's if you're trying to be at the top of the pyramid of success from wins and losses, I mean, you're holding yourself to a high standard. There's not a lot of room at the top of that pyramid. Only one team can be at the top, so you have to be a perfectionist. Yeah, how do you get there? It's just so how do you improve? It goes back for us. To me, Tracy had a great question. Since I've come here, for me, if you look at the last 2 years, we won 11 of our last 14 my first year. We got beat on a buzzer shot from winning 8 in a row in the Pac-12. And then last year, despite massive injuries and losses of personnel, we got much better as the season went on. Even though the schedule was tough late and we missed some free throws, cost us some games. But you're playing Elite 8 teams and losing at the buzzer. But you got to get better at the end of the year. That's college basketball. And I think the way to do that, you got to develop your bench. You got to find a way to develop your bench. You got to find a way to be multi-dimensional offensively. Because there's games where Johnny's not going to be able to win the game for you. He could be in foul trouble. He could get hurt. You could have to play the whole first month of the season without Cody Riley. So I'm looking forward to getting him back, guys. I know we've kind of made, other than the Gonzaga game, we've made it look like we don't miss him, but I promise you we do. I promise you.
Coach, you talked a lot about Shaka, but you didn't say anything about his hair that he went from.
Yeah, I think, you know, maybe he's just rubbing it in on the rest of us. Or maybe I'll just see. I'm going to prove a point. I'm going to let it grow out and see. He's young still, man. He's young. So it's like my man Leonard Hamilton doesn't stress. That's why he's still got great hair. Him and Jim Hill. It's amazing, man. It's amazing. You guys good?
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Good to see you guys.